works as a project manager for Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. Mr. Sebai holds an MBA with a nonprofit specialization in management and spent the last 10 years advising numerous nonprofit organizations. He currently serves as a steering committee member for Lifeline Syria and advisory board member of the UOSSM Canada, where he provides senior leadership in support of both humanitarian aid abroad and refugee settlement locally to benefit the Syrian population.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. I can tell you it was quite emotional watching that video. I'm Canadian, and I'm also Syrian, and over the last few years, and over the, especially over the last few months, when people find out I'm Syrian, they come to me and tell me that they're sorry and they're sympathetic. But the truth is, the Syrian people don't need you to be sorry, and they don't need your sympathy. They need you to care, and they need you to support. The Syrian people don't believe for a minute that they want or need a handout. Syrian people just need a hand up. After 4 or 5 years of war now, they still continue. They've lost everything. They've lost their homes. They've lost everything they're known, but they still remain. They're still steadfast. They still have hope. And that's the story that I hope to share with you today. It's truly a story of hope. I'm not gonna, to best tell the story of Syria and Syrians, it's not by showing you numbers, talking to you about how half the population is, in poverty, is displaced, how 3/4 of refugees are women and children. It's Syrians, even till today, we're still very hopeful. How it all started, you saw a lot in the videos, people really wanted their freedom. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people across the country, stood up and said that we want our basic human rights, we want our freedoms, we want dignity. And, unfortunately, the regime responded by attacking its own people. Women, children, villages, peaceful protesters, young boys tortured, it just goes on. And then, the people took up arms. They didn't have a choice. They needed to defend themselves. But the attacks continued and they were merciless. And soon thereafter, Syria, as we now know, has been destroyed. I come from Homs, it's once the third largest city, and 3/4 of the city is in rubble. You wouldn't even recognize it. It's like taking a look at pictures of Dresden after the Second World War. And more than half the country is in ruins. If you take a look at that picture there, it's not an uncommon sight. Just to walk around and see that there's nothing where once there was life, once there were people, once there were hope. And that's really now, as we've been beginning to see, Syrians now, the country is a country of refugees. Millions are fleeing, and they've been fleeing for a long time. And mind you, we haven't necessarily heard a lot of it because it's only now that we're starting to hear, because they're coming into our backyard, they're coming to our shores. And why did it take so long? Why have we not seen these stories? And the truth is, many Syrians remain in countries like Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Turkey, because they still had hope. They had hope that they can go back, that they can reclaim their country, they can reclaim their lives. But after 4 years of war, 4 or 5 years of war, after we're seeing all these foreigners now, governments, militias, terrorists, that hope is gone. And a new hope began. And that was to look for another life. As that woman in the video talked about, it's not even for themselves, it's for their children, it's for the next generation. This is the greatest disaster since the Second World War, and the magnitude is really beyond belief. And, you know, we have a saying that no one puts their child in a boat unless the water is safer than the land. So all these people that you see, you know, and it hasn't stopped since Elan. There's thousands every day. There's many that still continue to die every day, you know, in those waters. Think of it when you're thinking about how much you can give and how much you can support. Because every day that goes by is a missed opportunity if we don't act. And one picture then suddenly changed things for us. It awoken us, you know, in Europe and in Canada and around the world to what was really happening. And sometimes that's what it takes. And Canadians here took notice. You know, over the last weeks and months, we've started to see citizens, residents from across the country speak out very much like you today, saying there must be something that I can do. We've seen municipalities, you know, step up and say, we're going to do something. We saw our own mayor here who decided to say that he was going to sponsor a refugee and family and picked up the phone and called other mayors. Now mayors across this country are putting together programs and working with their communities to do something. We see provinces stepping up and putting together you know, programs. In fact, our very own province put $10 million because they believe that we, you know, have a tradition here in Canada. We've done it before, and that we can do it again. And there is such a group here that you know, I'm very proud to be part of, called Lifeline Syria. It was just, you know, individuals. You know, if you went to any one table and picked up, you know, a handful of individuals, that's what Lifeline Syria was all about. It was just random people who all came together and said that we can do more. You know, in working with the Syrian community and working with settlement agencies, the government, and people like yourselves, they took an ambitious goal to bring 1,000 refugees here to Canada. You know, much of it was inspired by what happened with the boat people back in the 70s from fleeing from that conflict, where they had a modest goal too, to bring, you know, 1,000 or a few hundred, you know, Chinese communities people over, and they brought over 60,000. We did it before, and we can do it again. And now, you know, there's a new hope here as well in Canada with our federal government. You know, the last government, there were many roadblocks. It was extremely difficult, and that's why we haven't seen many refugees today here in Canada. But now even our government is ambitious, and they've got a goal that they want to bring 25,000 Syrians by year end. So again, extremely hopeful that the months ahead, that there's much that can be done, and there's much that we all can do. But let us not forget, you know, many times when I talk to people about the refugees and they want to help, you know, how many can we help? We can help a family, we can help thousands of families, but let's remember the numbers. There's still millions, and they're still stuck, and they're still over there. We cannot forget about them either. You know, half the country is still displaced, millions, and you know, the vast majority of million are women and children. Every one of those numbers, you know, is a family. And also, there's so many injured that you can't even imagine. And this is an old number, over 1 million injured. This is like months ago, I mean, even a year ago, this number. There's so many people who lost limbs, are in desperate need, are barely hanging on, and 3/4 or 2/3 of the entire health infrastructure in the country is destroyed. And what's even worse, for the first time ever, I mean, we've never seen this in any war, even World War II, people don't attack hospitals. You don't attack doctors. You don't attack, ambulances. But this war is different. That's what's happening. The most dangerous profession in Syria is to be a doctor. The second most is to be a journalist. If you're taking a picture. There's been over 300 attacks on hospitals and healthcare facilities across the country just in the last 2 weeks, since this stepped-up aggression that we've been seeing from the government and from some of the foreign elements. Over 10 hospitals have been targeted and destroyed. 3 in Aleppo alone. There's people who are fleeing the war, can't even get the treatment that they need. However, again, there's still hope. There's still people who risk their lives and remain and are doing what they can. And I work with one of these organizations called Awesome Canada. We are supporting over 80 hospitals, 15 clinics. We're sending medicines and aid. We're training doctors to replace those that have been lost. And there's people on the ground. They're still continuing to do what they can. We're still continuing to do what we can because there's always hope. You know, I've been there a few times myself. I'll be going back in a couple of weeks, and I can tell you, if you're an aid worker, no matter how difficult it is, no matter what you see, there's always hope. It's you never walk too far before you see, you know, some of these amazing children and the smiles on their faces despite everything that they've lost. And that reminds you that there is a humanity left in us. There is hope. And, you know, as the people before me talked, there is something that you can do. You can't change the tide of the war. You can't save everybody, but if you can save one life, well, it's as if you saved all of mankind. Thank you.